We good? All right. Okay, let's get started.
Okay.
This is Inside with Outsiders. My name is Jeremy Asgari, and today we have the lovely Angela Powe of Equality Yoga with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming through. And I also want to thank you for partaking in our sound bath hike adventure we did in the fall.
Yes,
right?
that was awesome. And thank you for putting me on.
Of course. You got
awesome
rave reviews. Everyone loved what you did. And I'm sorry I wasn't there to experience it, but I know I owe you one. This podcast interview series is to learn more about the people in our community, and you being in our community. I want to know about you and the events that took place in your life that kind of landed you where you are now.
Okay.
So the first question I ask everybody is, where are you from?
Where am I from? I'm from New York City.
Yeah. Born and raised?
Born and raised.
Where are you
Very
repping?
proud of that.
What part?
I'm repping Queens, New York, which is where I'm born. Far Rockaway, Queens, actually.
Okay.
But I'm raised in the city on the Upper East Side, a little bit of the Upper East, Upper West Side.
When did you were born in Queens, but would you live in Queens at all?
Between 1 and before kindergarten.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
What part of Queens? Far Rockaway?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, we have a guy we interviewed here who opened up the Rockaway Hotel who's from Far Rockaway.
Nice.
Terrence Turity. But I love going out there. Matter of fact, I'm not sure if you know this, but the adventure that launched the concept of Outsiders was the Rockaway ride. I rode from downtown Manhattan or Williamsburg, depending on the year. The first year was Williamsburg. I rode to Rockaway Beach and had like a beach party.
That's cool.
It was dope. It was like, we do it every year. Now we have like 150 riders ride with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a big vibe.
It's a big vibe. It's
and they've done a lot in Far Rockaway over the years. So.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I guess your formative years weren't necessarily there. They were in Manhattan, right?
Yes.
Where Manhattan again?
In the 90s.
Like where?
Like Spanish Harlem, 93rd, East Side.
Okay.
East Side.
Nice. And what's your ethnic background?
My parents are mixed. Both my parents are mixed. So my dad was from Jamaica, born and raised, but he's Jamaican Chinese. And my mom is from New York also. She's from Harlem, but she's mixed also. So she's Black Cuban and French white mix.
Oh, wow. It's crazy mix. So Jamaican Chinese, which is a lot. I don't know if people know, but there's a lot of Jamaican Chinese.
Yes.
A lot.
I'm glad you know that because a lot of people are like,
No.
And I didn't know of it as much either until I had gone to visit the land and saw the flag up there and learned more of the community too. So
What flags you see?
I'd actually seen all of the flags representing really my father, which is why I'd gone there actually. And it was the American flag, it was the UK flag, it was the Chinese flag and Jamaican flag.
Nice. Do you speak other language?
No. I mean, I practice my Spanish, but that's from what I've learned in schools over the years, which take me conversationally when I'm focused, but not bred.
Is there any one of your cultural backgrounds that you identify the most with?
Being a New Yorker.
It's funny.
That's
funny.
my culture for sure, and I've always taken on some mixed. So
yeah, I get that question because my father's from Iran. He's Persian, and my mom is. My mom's half French, and her father was a mixed race American guy. So people ask me what do I identify the most with. Genetically, I'm mostly Middle Eastern. I'm mostly Persian, but I would say I grew up here, so I identify most with like New York, New Jersey.
Yes.
So I go,
Okay, you're from Jersey.
Huh?
You're from New Jersey.
That's where I live. Yeah, I grew up there. I grew up living there and going to school. I went to school at Eunice, United Nations School, Manhattan.
Okay.
So and then my parents were divorced. My dad lived in Jersey, then Queens, then Connecticut. So, yeah, but Jersey's where I grew up with most of my life. It's just that when Jersey folks talk to me, I don't know, like, I didn't grow up in the parts of Jersey. Chris can attest to this. There's parts of Jersey that are like suburbs of Philly, parts of the suburbs of New York, and then there's parts that are like just proper Jersey.
Okay, what's proper Jersey? Okay.
I don't know.
What's proper Jersey? Because I don't want to stereotype.
I would say anything south of like Newark, maybe.
Yeah, south of Newark.
Which
probably,
means what?
Probably on the Parkway, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Neither do I. So
Okay,
I don't know.
Fair.
You know where the Lincoln Tunnel is? Mm-hmm. We literally live where the Lincoln Tunnel comes in.
Yeah, that's where we grew up.
I don't know what that means culturally, but I understand.
Culturally,
it's a mix, just like it is here in
Okay,
right,
here's what I'm going to tell you this.
Metro and city.
The largest population of Cubans outside of Miami in the United States is in Union City, which is the same place. Like we grew up.
No idea
across
of
it.
that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's very culturally diverse. Jersey City's got like a lot of Indian, Middle Eastern, I think even like Polish Ukrainian potentially as well, old Italian, Irish.
Okay.
Chris is Puerto Rican and Irish, so
Okay, yeah, that's a frequent mix.
exactly. Well, in this area, so
Yes.
yeah. So you identify mostly in New York. Tell me, what was it like growing up in New York in the 90s?
What was it like growing up in the 90s? I take a deep breath. It was fun, to be honest. I played a lot outside in the parks and did all the things, did museums, all the things. That'd probably be it, right? In terms of like looking around as a kid and exploring, amusement parks, you get away from the city. I did camping on the weekends, which is why I took to outsiders a lot. Yeah, because I'm like, yes.
Right.
So that was our getaway. But I played a lot in the parks.
Yeah.
I played a lot with my friends. I grew up with my friends. A lot of them I still have now.
Yeah.
I walked a lot of, just explored the streets. I think there was definitely, I don't want to say I walked a lot of the streets. I explored
different meanings.
But yes, for sure. But literally walking from one side of Manhattan to the other, or spending time in different boroughs for different eras of my life. Yeah,
I remember. So we said something that museums, for me, one of the most nostalgic places for me was Museum of Natural History. Seeing that big blue whale and the T-Rex, for me, like I took my brother and I took my niece there. And Chris came, might have been like 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it was so nostalgic to me. It was amazing being able to walk in there. I think it's like the perfect place for kids because you can their imagination runs wild. I remember my imagination going crazy when I was there.
Yes, the mummy, Egyptian era.
Yeah, I mean, it's to see all the different civilizations that they feature there. I mean, it's obviously a great learning tool, but it's fun.
Yes.
It's like a standstill movie, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't been, guys, you should go check it out. I mean, I think any city could kind of relate to that. Like, I remember in high school coming in after class and just walking around down 9th Street Village, Washington Square Park, or riding my bike through the city. I mean, that's why the Rockaway ride was so great for us. It was so nostalgic. Riding as a kid, riding your BMX with all your friends in the neighborhood is like, that's childhood to me.
So you BMX'd.
BMX, yeah, when I was a kid.
I loved that. Like, I was like, I want to BMX.
You didn't get one when you were a kid?
No, I mean, no, not a fixie bike. I used to ride on the back of them with my brother. But of course I biked. But that was a big part of, high school and Union Square, a lot of BMXers and skateboarders and bladers. So I used to just observe, people watch.
Well, if you, when you're in high school, I mean, this doesn't necessarily conform to everybody, but everyone feels like they have to be part of one social group, right? And don't necessarily, sometimes you mix between, I know me, I love skating, so I was hanging out with skaters, but I was also a basketball player, but I also like hip hop, but also like hardcore, and then I also like some electronic like dance music, so I like a little of all of it. So I never really felt like I had to fit in, but I guess my identity would be leaning towards a little more on the hip hop side.
Okay.
As far as like who I would hang out with, because I love basketball and that. But what would you say your social?
I love that question. Because there's a part of like, I don't know if it's the mix in me or what, that feels a pride in saying, even in high school you had your kind of cliques here and there.
Yeah.
And certain cultures hung out together more, basketball players to your point, the teams. But my friend group and my main circle friend group really had a little bit of all of that. And so, we had some who maybe, more studious, we'll just say, mixed with, people from the basketball team. I played basketball. I played softball.
Trying to say guys that were
years.
basketball team didn't study?
I mean, they were playing a lot of basketball, I'll say that. And, mixed with the bad the kids, the class clowns. So
what high school did you go to?
I went to School of the Future High School.
Where's that?
Which is actually across the street from Baruch College on 23rd between Lexington and Park.
Okay.
But yeah, super mixed group, a little bit of everyone. And it was a larger collective. A lot of them I still have close ties to. And yeah, a little bit of everything. The Spanish and the hip hop influence and the sports and the clowns and the cool guys.
I feel like the cool guys. I feel like that's the beauty of New York. You have so many different subcultures that you can dive into and don't necessarily have to conform to one. Whereas if you go to school in some suburb or middle America, for that matter, there's not too many groups to choose from. And if there are, then you're like relegated to that group.
Yes.
But okay, so that's interesting. That was your college experience. I mean, your high school experience. Did you go to college?
I did go to college.
Where'd you go to college?
I started off at BMCC. Start here, go anywhere.
Yes.
Did you?
I did
Almost
summer
everyone
classes
I
there.
talked to does. Yes.
I did anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology there because I didn't want to handle it in school.
Yeah,
there.
like I had the grades to go elsewhere, but it ended up being super easy because I took a semester off. Financially too,
it's the
I'm
best
so grateful
decision.
for it, and I have awesome teachers that have changed. Really made up my career.
Side
base.
note, don't mean to interrupt you, but CUNY has more Ivy League professors than any university.
I believe that.
It's amazing. I went to Hunter. I was a graduate of Hunter College.
Okay, nice. I did
Yeah.
too.
Oh, so you went to Hunter after
Yes,
BMCC?
I started there and I went to Hunter.
Let's go, Hunter Hawks.
Yes. I didn't play in the sports teams, but okay, nice.
I mean,
Very cool.
But it's funny. So my college life was, I went to school 1 year in Ohio.
Okay.
And I absolutely hated it, but I wouldn't trade the experience in for the world, right?
So you had that out of town experience, big time.
I did, and out of culture, different culture shock, right? So, but it was important because I realized that that's why I thought New York City was the norm. I thought this is what the world, the U.S. is like. It's obviously not. So it was a great experience for there, but I left after. I wanted to leave after the first semester, but I had to stick the year out.
Wow.
And then I went to a community college for a year because I didn't know where I want to go, and I had to get my grades up because I didn't like Ohio. Then I went to Hunter.
So what was your with lack of diversity? I'm assuming.
Crazy lack of diversity. I mean, I had a funny experience my first day there. My twin brother came with me, and my mom.
You have a twin?
I have a twin. Yeah.
I have a twin.
Really?
We're twins. That's funny. Now I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Yeah, I know. Who's leading this interview?
That's funny.
Boy or girl?
A girl.
Identical
She's
fraternal.
on my wrist, actually. We're fraternal.
Me too, fraternal.
Okay,
but
cool.
I have a twin brother.
Yes, that's
interesting.
a different experience, I assume, though, having someone who looks just like you.
We're fraternal.
Right, if it were.
Oh yeah, and my brother and I talk about it. This is a documentary on twins that he and I both watched, and we're watching this documentary. Look at
the same time.
They're super weird. They lived their whole lives together.
Yeah.
They married sister. Like really everything had to be the same. My brother and I looking at each other like these are some weirdos. Like we could.
Yes.
So we're gonna touch on the fact that you have a twin as well.
Okay.
But so I'm my first night at the school in Ohio. Ohio was a university, and my brother and I go into like this party or whatever, so a campus thing going on. And this girl walks up to me talking, and she's like, "You look different." I'm looking at myself like,
Am I different?
really? What? How? And she's like, "Are you Mexican?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm actually half Persian."
Not the Mexican thing when they can't mark it.
Yeah, I'm half Persian, and she's like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be an interesting year." Okay.
Wow.
But again, like there, like most of Middle America, you have a few boxes to fit in, right? You have white, black, any sort of Latino is considered Mexican there, and then maybe Asian or Indian, right? Which ends up being the same because Indians are Asian, but yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. It was really eye-opening and made me grow a real appreciation for New York. Yeah. So
That was in your college experience.
What's that?
That was in your college experience.
First year, yeah.
Okay.
By the way, so what's going on? You have a twin sister. You didn't mention that. What's going on with this?
Going on
What
with
does
my
she
twin
do?
sister,
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah. What's her life like? What's she
her
do?
life
Who is
like?
she? What's her name? Shout her out.
Her name is Angelina. Shout out to you, sister.
Angelina?
Angelina. It's Angela and Angelina.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, mine is Jeremy and Matthew. There's no.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, my mom wanted to make sure that
It was
the
like-
twins are coming through were known.
Jeremy and like Jerome, I guess.
In case
but
you
no.
forgot, there's two of them kind of thing. But
Yeah.
talk about that. We've gotten, even the systems have gotten our names. We can have two socials, but they mix us up all of our lives.
Oh, wow. Because of the names?
Because of the names.
Yeah.
So think about that when
Yeah.
you name your children, I suppose. How do we picture it? I mean, I would always picture it as a yin yang. That's kind of how I would describe it. You know, even in
I think you would describe my brother and I in this.
Oh, they're polar opposites.
Yeah, and that's usually how it goes with twins. You know, I don't know if that marks that you guys end up getting along really well or if you end up clashing a lot.
I'd say for the most part we got along really well. I mean, we clashed like siblings would, like that's
Right.
expected. But I don't think it was anything that wasn't normal. You know, we're very different though.
Right.
So like his preferred social environment in 20s as far as nightlife was like bars, and he drank, and I never was a big drinker. He's
Right.
now he's married with 2 kids. He's almost always been in a relationship where I was like, few and far between. It's very different.
Right.
But I guess that's what balanced it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely that.
How's she different? I don't know you enough to know what the
Right.
opposite is of you.
Well, growing up, I grew up super, super shy, almost like social anxietic. I
Really?
wouldn't say almost, but for sure. As a kid, it was very shy in front of camera, very shy. Just
Look
if
at you now.
Look at me. I mean, I still work on it.
Yeah.
It's a working in progress.
Right.
But I think, and she was the total opposite, right? So super outgoing, outspoken, say the things at the table to get a laugh or, make people a little uncomfortable. So I definitely balanced me. I was a mama's girl. She's super protective. So she definitely taught me a lot of things in that. And it's balanced my character a lot. So that'd be how I describe it. Physically, we look very different too. She's even lighter tone, a little taller, different color eyes. She's the type to cut all her hair off and then let it grow again, super just
Wow.
do what I want to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can be super methodical and think things, so,
Yeah.
and I would never,
You never what?
and probably shave
Good,
my
yeah,
head.
yeah.
I don't know, I haven't had that moment in that
Right.
stage yet, but,
That's interesting.
but
you guys
yes.
are really opposites. I mean, my brother and I aren't that different,
Yeah, we handle things very differently, but there's definitely twin power is definitely a thing.
In
There's
what
a
regard?
in an alignment and a synchronization, right? Like we're synchronized. We definitely think very similar. If we play a game, like we're gonna guess the same thing. We know what each other's thinking, kind of.
I don't know if my brother and I did, but we had a game we used to play where people would ask, are you sure you got this? The stupid questions like, do you know what they think? Do you feel when they feel pain? Like some dumb shit.
Yeah.
And then I would say, yeah, well, we guess the right number, guess the number. So I would whisper or write a number down and show the person. And then we'd have my brother guess, and it'd always be the same number. So we already knew what we were going to say. People
Oh,
believed
okay,
it
you
like
tricked
idiots.
them.
Yeah. of
No,
course.
we actually have that superpower.
You do have that superpower.
Yes.
That's great. And that's not necessarily only with twins. I know siblings. I had an ex-girlfriend who was super tight with her sister, like connected. Her sister was on the West Coast. She was East Coast. And I remember we're sitting there one day, and all of a sudden she starts crying. I'm like, what
Wow.
happened? I was like,
Wow.
what'd I do? I didn't do a
What did
thing.
you know?
And she was like, something my sister calls her sister. Her sister's crying. I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I'm like, all right.
That's super
This
moving.
brouhaha stuff, I have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on. It was weird. I mean, it was a beautiful connection, right? It's interesting, but to me, I was like, this is
Yeah, it's
exactly. So
but to be in sync with, yeah.
you had that experience with your sister?
Not to that extent. I mean, we haven't tested it out. I didn't call her in those
Right, right.
moments. Are there coincidences, which someone will reach out? I think that happens with your daily dynamics.
Right.
You think of someone and they call you. But just games, we've played, what's that game called? I think it's called Outburst, but I don't think so. I think that's just what you do. You outburst things. And you have to pick a category. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with shared experiences and so shared humor,
Yeah.
which definitely Step Brothers, the movie would probably be that kind of
Love that movie.
dumbassness
Yeah.
that, I think her and I can only really you get it
Yeah.
kind of humor.
Yeah.
So with that, but yeah, with certain games, it's bam, 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 bam.
Right.
We should be on the same team because it's over.
Cool. Okay. Note to self, don't play cards with you guys.
Certain card games.
Yeah. So when you go to college, what did you study and what did you want to be like? What do you think you wanted to be growing up?
Okay. As a kid, I wanted to be a teacher always. I was either going to be a teacher or a background dancer, background singer, in the background too, because rather than forward facing.
Can you dance well?
Right.
Are you a dancer?
I enjoy dancing.
Because you asked me if I was a b-boy before this. So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I went to a breakdancing class one time, but a couple times, and that's all it lasted. But not typically my preference of dancing. I love to dance though, and I love the movement, and all of the other things that I think involved with dancing. Naturally, yes, I'm called to it. But I always wanted to be a teacher, which I find super ironic for the path that I'm in. In college, I liked philosophy a lot, so I thought I was going to end up pursuing that. I fell in love with philosophy in high school. Shout out to one of my high school teachers where I took a class called, What is the Meaning of Life? And it was basically an existential class. And then there was another class followed up with that, and it changed a lot of the direction in terms of my studies in school.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to Hunter, I decided to study psychology.
Really? That was my minor.
Cool.
What did you want to do with that degree?
I wanted to learn the science of the mind. Intimately. I have experienced very closely, dealing with others with severe mental illness. And so I had a very negative impact of really probably the worst case scenario that can transpire from really how mental illness, I think, is dealt with in Western society.
You experienced that, you're saying?
I had close quarters with it. So close family member dealing with it is something I grew up with, having to experience separate from me, thankfully, right? And just bad accidents. One thing kind of led to another, which was just bad accidents, I'll just say.
Okay.
But it did lead me to want to really study in a more concrete way, really learn how the system goes about dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what had me there. What I wanted to do with it, I wanted to get into the field a little bit, social work. However, when I got deeper into my studies, I was also getting deeper into my love for yoga. So those two coinciding kind of blended my career and changed my path as I was creating it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Did you graduate with a degree in psychology?
Yeah.
And when you graduated, I know you were already kind of pulled to the direction of yoga, but what was your immediate job after graduation?
Yoga.
Yoga?
Yeah.
Did you ever go back to the psychology path? I mean, obviously you have elements of psychology.
I've never left it.
Yeah.
I never left it. I have a close friend, one of my best girlfriends, who has been working in the field for years. She deals with autistic kids, and that's her strength, dealing with that population, or kids with autism, and or kids on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd get insights to really the daily life of what it is to work within a hospital, what it is to really have this helping hands that you would like to have on a client, on a patient.
Right.
And I've experienced, I haven't experienced, but I've had very close quarters with someone who has, and I'm sure everyone has a story, right? If it's not them themselves, it's very close branched into this, marginalized issue.
Yeah.
And yet it's so prevalent. And so why are we talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting worse because we're not talking about it. It's really worsening a lot of symptoms, et cetera, because it's self-isolating, I imagine, dealing with it. So, dealing with it in the system, I think, was between a rock and a hard place. In terms of dealing with it with family and observing how the system handles it in the system. And so I was getting called to coaching because I knew that was a space, my girlfriend actually mentioned at the time, it's so crazy how it ends up manifesting into what I do now. But knowing that as another option as opposed to a therapist's seat where you're having to go with the rules and the functioning within the system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas I can have a more direct experience and help people in the way that I actually want to, more natural, sustainable, at least in a certain population that come to me.
So that's that's the life coaching or wellness coaching you do?
I think it's the collective of the wellness.
Whatever you describe it as, because
Sure,
I want to make sure
coaching.
I get that right.
Yeah, mindfulness coaching, I would call it.
Okay, mindfulness coach, that's the word I'm looking for. Okay.
That's the word I would use for it.
And you do a variety of different things. So obviously you said you do yoga.
Yes.
You're a yoga instructor and you do mindfulness coaching. But you also do Reiki as well. What's the full spectrum of what you say you provide for people who either hire you or for the classes you give?
Holistic tools.
Yeah.
That's what I say. It's, it's really me on the journey that's helped me. I come to find that it's an entire science, an entire world behind things that I've coincidentally come upon on my own journey, right? I would have this deepening experience in yoga, and then I find out, oh, that's why you left that class in tears, right? Like that's actually like it's a symptom of the yogic practice, right? It's a deep release in the body. And so you learn that these are specific ways to really tap into lots of, I don't know where we are in terms of getting into the conversation, but tapping into places in the body and why, psychologically, holding on to tension, etc. So I serve a few different, ultimately it's energetic work, but I moved through it through yoga. When you study the energetic pieces in the yogic field, you learn Reiki.
Okay.
And so I deepened my studies through that.
When did you start touching into those elements? Because you graduate from school, you go right into your yoga practice, which you assuming you'd been doing prior to graduating.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Okay, so what did that look like? What did that timeline look like for you? When did you graduate? What year?
I graduated 2019, right before 2020. Took a long
2020.
time.
Okay.
Don't age me in that answer because it took me a long time. Talk about BMCC, start here, go anywhere. It took me a long time to somehow get out of BMCC, but also I took semesters in between, and once you're out of school, so you miss deadlines.
Yeah.
But I graduated officially 2019, right before COVID, and then I was supposed to pursue my yoga certification right after that, do traveling in Costa Rica for it. So that got delayed for the year, to which I continued to do the study online. And then when the borders opened up within that same year, almost the following year, I went and did the training. Soon after that, one thing kind of just trickled effect into the next.
And what were your jobs from the time you in high school till you started really doing the full-time equality yoga?
What were my jobs?
Yeah.
I worked, total flip side of that. I worked in fashion retail for many years. I did that fresh out of school. That was my first job to really pay for school. I wanted to move out when I was 19, 20. So that was my way to really pay New York City bills while I pursued college. I worked my way from different retail stores, from sales associate up until management, eventually different brands.
What was your experience like working in retail in New York City? Let's hear it. I know you got some stories.
That's when I'm like, okay.
Yep, there we go. I know you got something good. Yes.
That's hilarious. I have plenty of stories.
They don't have to be relevant to yoga. I mean, this is you, right?
I have plenty of stories.
You're not entirely, your whole identity doesn't revolve solely around yoga, of course. So, that's what we're here. We're here to learn about you.
The yogic identity would include all of this, right?
Right.
Not to separate that. I had some funny experiences. I mean, where do I start from? 1920. I used to work around in Soho at Urban Outfitters when I was a kid. Such cool, amazing people. I still know some of them to this day, too.
Oh, was that the one on 6th Avenue?
That's the one on Broadway.
Okay.
Which was just an absolute crazy house back in, what year was this? 2009, 2010. I had just graduated high school. And we used to just do crazy things, and it was just a gang in the store of just friends, and everyone just is so, it's Urban Outfitters at the time when it's the hottest thing around too. So everyone has their own style and just own special talent. And we used to come from crazy stores and work crazy shifts until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then as a group, we used to go to Brighton Beach at after closing hours to go have a party on the beach.
Really?
Anyone who sees this on YouTube is going to be like, yes, if they know what I'm talking about.
Well, we want to know what you're talking about.
Dozens of us.
What were these Brighton Beach parties like?
And we used to just have overnight parties, and then people who had to work in the morning for their 7, 8 o'clock shift used to just go from there.
Oh, my God.
That was a lot of my early upbringings there with that store.
Yeah. I mean, you got to experience that kind of lifestyle in a way when you're growing up in New York. Because growing up, you see all of that as a kid, and you're not really able to partake because you're too young. But then when you're able to, it's like...
Yes. I mean, I don't know if we were supposed to then either, but...
the fact that New York City is your playground at that age is a beautiful thing,
Absolutely.
Damn, from Brighton Beach back to work. Wow.
Right, you just hop on the train. Yeah, it was horrible, but amazing. Yes, that was a crazy shift the next day. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Lots of parties, lots of stuff, that brings up a lot of early Brooklyn days before Williamsburg and Greenpoint is what it is now.
Yeah.
And all of these were just empty warehouse spaces. Like a lot of these New York kids were just creating insane parties, like really insane illegal parties that would get shut down by 2 a.m. on the dot. Yeah. Like it was like clockwork, and then all these kids scram out, take the same L train.
Yeah. So
yeah.
How did that experience lead you to wellness? Because it does, right? I mean, those experiences are, I don't want to say, because they're not entirely unhealthy, right? I mean, the drug use is unhealthy in a certain extent, but there's still a community, right? So there's something healthy about that. It's a social community.
Sure. I think everything ties into yogic, right? Like true yogic practice is really just non-judgment, right? Like coming back to the self again and again and again. And that practice on the mat is going to look differently for every person. My personal practice on the mat is going to look different than the next day. And so it's really just a matter of listening to the self, Right. I didn't do I didn't do drugs, and stuff like that. I did drink a little bit here and there when I was in my teens, exploring it earlier than legal.
I think everybody has.
Of course. Yeah. And yes, that was around me for sure. That's a big part of growing up in the New York City experience too. You're really exposed to a lot of things really early. Yeah. You're exposed to all of it from the first train ride, the first train stop to the end of it. You'll get
yeah. I mean,
you'll get the entire. I don't know.
We grew up in an era where Times Square was all peep shows and pornos, so I was exposed to that. Because I lived, again, I went to school in Manhattan, but I lived in Jersey, so I'd pass 42nd Street to Port Authority all the time. And when we used to walk down the streets, my mom said, "Look down."
Yeah, so I still got the crazy Elmos. I remember the boobies out with that
was like
pasties.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's still happening actually. That might be on Fifth Avenue in the 50s now, but
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't around for the total for that part, but totally, there was tunneling and getting through, are we on a retail question or growth question? Retail.
It's all connected. It's all connected. So,
right, to get to the question of how it ties back, I think, freedom of the moment, fun, friendship, connection, unity. We still came into work the next day. There's discipline. Yeah. Everyone hungover made it to work the next day.
But everyone's experiencing the same thing together, like it's the unity. So that's the aspect. That's a healthy aspect, in my opinion. Like, what I miss the most from the days that when I used to be a promoter in New York.
Okay, yes.
What was that supposed to mean?
I think you know what that's supposed to mean.
Oh, tell me.
That means you promoted the nightclubs of New York.
I did, exactly. Smart ass. So, but what I missed the most was, I guess, the community, the fact that we knew we were all going to meet up at a certain time and I'd see each other all, like, during the week or weekends, and there was that togetherness. That's what I miss. Yes. And that's what I recreated in a healthier environment with outsiders, and I think that's one of the more important things, especially given the fact that people are so secluded these days with interacting through their phones, right? You're still connecting with others, but it's not the same way. There's not the same energy exchange. You're not even seeing anyone. Matter of fact, I was walking down the block the other day and I saw everybody on their phones talking to somebody on their phones, but nobody talking to anybody they're walking with. It was the weirdest realization. Like, people communicate more virtually than they do in person, and
yet it's not even like genuine connection.
Right. I mean, in person, it makes it for a better genuine connection. I mean, during the pandemic, having those virtual connections, virtual conversations, house party app and all that was definitely saved me. I live alone, so I was in my house by myself for 3 months. Like, right. I was like, I needed to see another human. I needed a hug. I needed some sort of human contact. But yeah, I do miss that. In
solitary confinement. That's
essentially,
torture.
I was in the hole, literally. But yeah, so I definitely see the correlation between that era and now, finding that same community aspect or togetherness in a healthier environment. So when did you kind of make the transition to being more in the wellness field from retail and from school and so on?
To make the genuine change, because I remember now I did go back to Hunter thinking, okay, I'm going to do teaching, and so I thought I would just do all the schooling necessary in order to do teach philosophy or something, because again I always loved the science of the mind, theory of the mind, how to live life, what's the meaning of life question, what's it all for?
I was wondering when people study philosophy, what are they trying to do in school, with that degree? What professions are
right what did you even want to do with that?
Yeah.
The way experiencing those classes would open up my mind. I remember I was in a philosophy class, and there was this one kid, and we were all we were the more engaged students in this class at BMCC actually, and we would talk and theorize and engage, and I remember this kid was just so interesting. He was one of the first people who talked to me about shrooms and psychedelics being a huge aid when it comes to severe mental illness or certain mental illnesses, right? And now we come to find what's now almost 20 years, 15 years later, that's huge. That's exactly where the field's going.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of this original thought, when I think about not necessarily philosophy as I've learned it through the minds of how it was taught to me in school, but more so in yogic philosophy even now, how you engage with yourself and the world is really the root of, or really how you engage with meaning with yourself and the world seems to be the root of psychological issues, at least how it was taught to me at Hunter. Okay. Right? There's a space between connection with the world, social life, and then your consciousness and whatever levels of consciousness you're talking about, right? Your ego, subconscious, so forth.
Yeah.
And then meaning and purpose. And then for me, it seemed like psychology as the study kind of just stopped there, and we started diagnosing people and treating the symptoms of what they're going through physically. But we didn't really but we're not actually tapping into the source, right? The source is the disconnection between yourself and the world and meaning and purpose. At least how I interpreted what was being taught to me verbatim.
Right.
And theory, whether that's religion, whether that's spirituality, whether that is, becoming the famous singer or rapper or artist, because that creative art, that space, whatever lives within you, that really moves your system, that thing that makes you feel like I can do this forever and I don't need to get paid for it.
Right.
That's what feeds the body and gives the body more life. Whereas, we do other things that just for the sake of, and it brings a lot of sickness and harm into the body physically.
And do you feel like what you're doing right now is feeding you in a positive way?
Absolutely.
And are you on the path that you want to be on? This is
absolutely.
And how are you going to keep on furthering that? 'Cause
the way in which the way that I know that it feeds me is the way that it makes me feel, right? And a lot of my beginning and practice, I would do a lot of work without getting paid. I would get off of my coaching calls, and this is still in my practice. This is right when I'm beginning. So we're volunteering, or, it's complimentary, or them not, my prices are considerably lower at the start. But the way that it used to move me, right. I used to get out of my seat and go run around my house. I have a little trampoline in my house for exercise, and go jump and
You have a trampoline in your house? That's amazing.
One from it's a small workout trampoline I've inherited from my mom years ago, and it's amazing. Everyone should get one. But you can fold it up, but I would have it out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. Finding doing things to do. And I used to have to just call someone, the way that I used to move my body, it made me, I know I'm in the right field.
So energizes you.
Of course.
Gotcha.
And so, I think when something can move you in that way, I think that's when you're knowing.
Yeah.
So for me, it is, not only coming from that in terms of a line space, but I think, I would love to think of medicine for the world the way that it served me and the way that my studies are taking me.
Yeah.
So I think it's sustainable for humans, and I think that's where a lot of the world, a lot of this Western world in terms of medicine and science is catching up to our history.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of talk about mushrooms. I saw the documentary on mushrooms on Netflix, Fantastic Fungi, or fungi, I'm not sure. But it was amazing because it describes how mushrooms are or the connecting neural network for the forest, but it also does the same for the brain.
Right.
It's really interesting.
We're of the earth, right?
Yeah, we are, but we tend to forget that.
Yeah,
We're separated.
we're here because of water.
Yeah, exactly.
We are made of water.
And by the way, also Happy Earth Day.
Happy
Today,
Earth Day.
There you go.
There's a jazz snap we've been waiting for.
There we go. Happy Earth Day. Guys.
Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day.
Yes.
Yes. Big ups to Mother Earth.
Exactly.
Sure.
It's so important.
So magical.
Exactly. I agree. We just did a couple of Earth Day events this past week, and we got, by the way, we have to do some more events with you. Let us know when you're ready.
Yes.
So when did you start incorporating these other elements of wellness into your practice? Were you called to do so, or you already knew you wanted to tell me about that process?
Yeah, so even upon reflecting your question, like wellness centers, like what's whispering in my head. And I knew that was something that was calling to me as I was studying in psychology, still thinking like, okay, how do I really want to pursue this knowledge, this degree? Wellness center.
Yeah.
Finding some way to get this knowledge and practice, most importantly, into other people's livelihoods. So it really fell into my lap.
Right.
By the time I finished my yoga training, I was still in Costa Rica, and I had met with someone who had a huge background in psychology and studied math for a long time, as well as yoga Sanskrit. And she ended up doing a yoga and life coach training. Okay. So the coaching aspect was based on this mindfulness piece with yogic philosophy. And I knew that I wanted to incorporate these two worlds, right? Like some people can find a little woo-woo. Right. When in fact, like I was looking at these textbooks on the phone with my girlfriend at 2 a.m., like with an eye twitch from studying all night and then working retail morning to night.
And then
right?
coming back from Brighton Beach, yeah.
I mean, this is years later. No, but you got to balance, right? This is what this is about.
I actually, no joke, 100%.
Yes.
100%.
But the balance was definitely coming out in the eye twitch, like, you need sleep. Yeah. But I think that's the college experience during finals in general for every 20-plus-year-old. So where was I? I was saying, so I would talk to my girlfriend, and it's how am I going to maneuver this? Because I don't really want to work in a place that, I think when anyone works in the system, they know that there's certain things you can't do for the person, no matter how much you want to.
Right.
And I've also experienced, things pretty closely where I don't, basically, and with that said, just to not digress, it just fell into my lap. From there, I got into the coaching.
What did you just skip right now?
Great question, interviewer. Yeah. I skipped the part where, I figuring out what your client actually is. I remember there are multiple moments, or not multiple moments, there's one moment and maybe one other in particular where I was going to work, my retail management job, and on the way, like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., I see a person, like, I don't know if he was homeless or definitely mentally ill and just not well. But the way that it shook my nervous system, I was like, I don't know if it brought up trauma or something, but it didn't sit right. And I was like, I don't know that I'd be able to deal with this demographic so closely with the way that it impacts your own body.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very, even a psychologist, a therapist, you're taking on people's weight, yes. Right? You're taking on that weight.
Absolutely.
How do you shed that when you're not working?
Yes. That's huge. And that's something I learned, definitely through my yoga training too, because you really become this, in the field they say it's like when your third eye opens, like you really become a vessel, like this, almost like a sponge. You can take on everyone's energy.
Was that empath is the terminology for
right.
it?
You would be an empath. And so when you're clean eating and you're doing yoga 3 times a day and all you're thinking, breathing is, this practice, it was a really powerful experience where I would listen to someone's story and I'd be dreaming it the next day in the next scenario, and it's really taking over my lifestyle. And it's like, you have to have your own practice so that you are grounded, right? And you're not taking on other people's things and I knew that of my girlfriend who worked in the field also, because it's hard. Yeah. You're working with, she works with children. It's difficult. So with that's what I skipped over. And to get back to your question, it's really deeply exploring who my client is and who I'm truly aligned to work with. Can I work in the field with this kind of demographic all the time?
Yeah.
Or, maybe not so severe,
Yeah.
and mental illness, and maybe, finding my way.
Do you do a lot of one-on-one mostly classes? What is the majority of your work?
In coaching, it's 101. I've done a couple, so 2-1 session, mostly virtual. Yoga, I do personals. I do lots of classes also.
Where do you teach yoga?
Where?
Mm-hmm.
Varies. I teach throughout the 5 boroughs in the city, and especially in terms of personals. For my classes, they're based in the city here. I started in Brooklyn, so I do scattered between Brooklyn and Manhattan mostly, but based in Union Square. I'll do my sound baths and my yoga practice.
What's the yoga studio in Union Square you work out of?
It's a wellness studio called Exacor, so it's a private wellness studio specific, and then we collaborate in her space.
Okay. So what do you want to see, what you're currently doing? Where do you want to see it going? And what do you see your goal, the future for equality yoga and yourself?
My goal for equality future and myself, where do I want to see it going? I would love to see the practice of, really what equality yoga and in its tool belt of holistic tools, really on the pants of just keep going with that, really on the pants of everyone, something that's incorporated into every human's everyday life, because it's something that's sustainable. It's something that's holistic in terms of being healthy for every area, physical, mental, emotional, all the things, social, relational. And in terms of, the physical part of that and how I'd love to see my business grow, for sure. We're just starting. It's been a ride, this entrepreneurship journey. I think you can probably have an entire podcast built off of that alone.
Absolutely.
It's an emotional ride because it means a lot to you. So that's something I'm exploring and growing with. I get paid when I know that how my yoga practice has resonated with someone, or how a session where someone had a space to be deeply heard gave them aha moments and, releases in ways that they didn't know were there. That feeds me.
Right.
Reiki is a continued practice. It's within all of us. So once you tap in, everyone is a practitioner.
I've had Reiki done a couple of times.
It's
really...
Thank you for saying that.
Real. It is.
I have some beautiful, beautiful stories that I've witnessed from Reiki, right? Just unbiased. And I've, with cancer, and when Reiki was incorporated into someone's chemotherapy, the radiance that was given back, the life energy, which is what Reiki is.
Yeah.
Yes, I can attest to more.
Yeah. That's beautiful. We're going to go into a couple of, one little lighter question right now.
Sure.
What do you do for fun?
Talk about this.
Is that what you do?
Speaking of lighter questions, I live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I really do love the study of. I've had that since I've been a kid, right? The kind of finding interest there, whether reading, writing, or speaking. It's really how I relate for the most part. But what do I do for fun? I sing. I like to dance in the privacy of my home. Big time on the privacy.
Sing us a
song. But that's my work, right? To really just be out there, right? And take after my counterpart twin who I've come into this earth with and learn from, for example.
Where is your twin, by the way?
Where is she? She's in Manhattan also. She's uptown.
Yes. Gotcha. What does your twin do?
She switches it up a little bit. Right now she bartends. Yeah. She was a makeup artist for a while, and that field stopped resonating. Yeah. So
okay,
that's what she's up
Does she
to.
partake in what you do?
She's loving on her doggy and her boyfriend. Currently. Does she do yoga? No. We're still trans. We're still crossing that bridge. But she is open to it. She really calls to the sound healing piece. So. Yeah.
Yeah. The sound bathing is. The vibrations are amazing. I know we met through Chelsea, who works with outsiders in LA now, and she's done sound baths for us in New York, and it's just an amazing experience. Combining that with Reiki would be really nice. I think. So when you turn off from work mode, or I don't want to call it work mode because it's more than just work for you. When you turn off from being on, singing, dancing, anything else you like to do?
I like to eat with my friends. I like to go out to eat.
Yeah, me too.
I love to go out to eat. I love comedy, whether that's comedy shows or watching comedy and stand up. I love to laugh. What else do I do? I like to go to the park.
Yeah.
Central Park is big for me. When the weather's nice and when I'm available, I really enjoy just being outside as much as possible.
Well, guess what?
Outside.
Just come outside with outsiders.
Right.
I told you come out and join us more often.
Free time, I'd love to travel.
Yeah. What kind of places do you like to travel to?
With sun.
It's always a beach?
Not always a beach,
But always tropical?
Not always tropical. Often tropical. I do have an affinity for Costa Rica, and I like to spend ample amounts of time there. But, this is a lot of jungle, which I enjoy that part.
Have you been to Brazil before?
I've not, but
Rio?
that's been
would love
coming
Rio.
up so much in the last couple of months that apparently Brazil's likely my next trip outside of Costa.
You may not come back.
I don't need much more feed of that energy because I won't come back.
You may not. I mean, it's beautiful.
I hear, but it's nothing but gorgeousness everywhere. Culture,
in every
way.
Culture, people, landscape.
Wow.
I've only been to Rio. I can't speak of other cities in Brazil, and I'd like to explore those, but Rio alone is like beautiful beaches, and then you look behind the beaches, like lush mountains. And
wow,
it's just an amazing place. Food.
Somehow I've heard less about the landscaping in Brazil.
What have you heard about?
I mean, I've heard about the beauty, the beautiful people. Everyone's just gorgeous. Everyone.
What is amazing?
But the food and the culture, right? A lot of Afroculture, African dance. A lot of it in the streets, so it's thick of the air of its original culture.
And something, very, very much so. The roots, the West African roots, and so on. But what's also interesting, and I noticed this, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. People of all ages are in shape.
Wow.
You have people working out like it's part of their culture. 70 years old, 60 years old, like ripped 6-packs. I'm like, what?
Right, like ripped in shape.
Amazing. I mean, they're also on the beach. Like people will play beach volleyball in the morning before they go to work.
Yes.
They'll play afterwards. They'll run. It's just a beautiful. Like for me, I love moving. So,
right.
I would love to spend more time there.
You might not come back.
Maybe not.
Maybe you make plans to go to Brazil. Listen, these are seedlings. We're just putting them out there.
We did Rio for New Year's with outsiders this past New Year's.
Wow.
So, and I was strongly considering going back in like February, March, because I had a friend who was getting married and I got a last minute invite. A bunch of friends went. I just couldn't pull it off, but I gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go back.
I'm going back. You told me about your goals with Equality Yoga. What are your own personal goals, like separate from career?
That's a good question. Personal goals, separate from career. I would love to have a home outside of New York. Still deciding where that is, but definitely internationally. Okay. So I'd love to build a home, likely in a jungle, with lots of greenery, close to water, in a place that can serve my work as well as my being. A big escape from New York is important. So that's huge in terms of some foundation I would like to create. Also, I'd love to create family one day, I think. So, calling into a relationship when aligned, right? When divine meets timing, which it always is. And so, when that happens, for sure. Build deep connection and grow from there. Combining the two, paired with my job, that's life goals.
Like a nice life.
Yeah.
What advice would you give high school you?
High school me, love that question.
Is that sarcastic?
That no,
I love that.
That sounds quite sarcastic, right? No, I do love that question. Don't take it personal.
Me?
No.
Oh, don't see.
He's like, what?
She was answering your question.
Right.
I thought she was like, don't take it personal.
personal.
I didn't realize. I thought she was gonna say something to follow up with that.
Oh,
like,
right. No
take
follow up.
personally?
Period. No follow up with that.
Don't
and that
take
I
it
think
personal.
that's what it is too. Like there's literally no follow up. Don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone is just expressing their projection onto you. That has absolutely nothing to do with you.
That's a great answer.
And that's a life That's a life advice.
That's good.
Not
We've
just
gotten
high school.
a variety of those answers, a variety of answers for that question. That's the first time I've heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Basically untying someone's emotion towards you to you. Yeah.
Take that through everything, right?
Yeah,
Even with therapy and work, you don't take it personal.
Learning that in psychology, the ego.
Also, another one I'd love, even tie it with that one. And I have to, a friend of mine said this one. I think my girlfriend Cynthia, so shout out to you. She's a homegirl I've had since I've been a kid. Mm-hmm. And she said, mind your business. Because really that's when things get confusing, when you're not minding your own business, and even in the psych field, the work that I do, it could be very easy to want to know the why or, get to the grid or, which also serves compassion, but it can serve a lot of disconnect when you're not grounded. And so it only really gets confusing when you're not minding your own business, right? Like, am I actually thinking about someone else's anything?
Right.
I think we have our own answers for ourselves.
I mean, that can be taken in many ways, right? So don't compare yourself. Don't in that realm.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
that's something
judgment.
I remind myself when I see friends of mine who are making like millions a year. I'm like, oh, that would be nice.
Mind the business that's yours.
Exactly.
Right? You don't know their journey, and they don't know yours.
Exactly. What's your favorite part of Outsiders? Of Outsiders.
Favorite part of Outsiders? I love the outdoors, the outside part, the we outside part.
The outside, you like that?
I love that, especially as a city kid. It's really, really important. Even thinking about the Outsiders as a brand, as a company, it's like, it brings almost my childhood back into existence. Yeah. Like, it was those weekends that I looked forward to with my family. We pack ourselves in the car and everything else. Mm-hmm. Best 2-3 days ever.
Yeah. It's very nostalgic, right? There's a lot of nostalgic elements. For me, I wasn't doing the outdoors with my family, but again, I spoke about like the birth of Outsiders through this bike ride. And for me, I think it's just adventuring with friends, and whether they're new friends or old friends.
New friends, that's great. I've made so many, I've made so many new friends already. Just one outside experience with you or with your team, You
gotta join
so
more,
important.
Please.
Yes, with love.
So we're in the North Face showroom, and their motto is never stop exploring. So with that, how do you incorporate exploration in your life, and how do you continue to foster a love for exploration? I
love exploration. Yeah. What a beautiful question. It almost brings me full circle to where I'm at in my own life. Exploration is a value. It's one of my core 4 values.
What are those 4? Can you list them?
Sure, I can list them. Deep connection. Let's see if I remember them. Exploration/discovery. Openness. And deep connection, exploration, openness, and am I messing this up? Openness.
They're your 4. I don't know.
I know, right? I had 5 really, but I finally narrowed it down, so I'm figuring out what it is. But I think openness, connection,
exploration,
and I forgot. It's one of those moments. It's gone.
Okay, well,
I can sit on it, but
yeah, if you remember.
But exploration is huge. How do I keep it in my life? By making sure that I explore. Whether that's physically and making sure that I consciously take the time to travel, which since the first time I ever did so out of the country, I can't stop.
Yeah.
Just can't stop. So I try and get even more amounts of time away as I can when I do make the trips. And then, of course, in my daily life here, too, right? Like living in New York City all my life, I can get really sick of it, for lack of a better word, phrase. So exploring the little things, right? Like keeping a mindfulness, exploring the parks that I've been around my entire life and seeing new flowers,
yeah,
right? Or seeing new shops, because there always are everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Or seeing, just like new parks, new faces, is seeing it, really trying, consciously looking to see it with a new perspective daily. As a practice, as a daily practice.
It's important. It keeps you youthful, in my opinion. So I like that. All right. Next question is one of my favorite questions. Okay. It's
still thinking about my 4th value. I'm like, damn it.
I mean,
but I'll get back to it. I texted you.
Fine. What is your most embarrassing moment?
My most embarrassing
Most
moment.
embarrassing.
You know, I've seen one of your clips and I knew this question was coming.
Oh, so you did say,
And I
thank
mean-
God, finally.
Yeah,
What, do
serious.
people not watch
Finally,
your
no one
things?
watches.
That's
No, I mean, people watch. We have views, but like no one that we interview.
Because they always ask, well, why didn't you tell me you're going to ask
Yeah.
that question?
oh no.
would've
I mean,
thought
you
of
gotta
something.
see what you're getting into.
Well, you would think so, right?
Right. Like you
That's
gave
what
us
I
a
would
link.
do. I gave you exactly.
People.
Anyway.
You also gotta support it. You know, you gotta throw a couple views on there.
Which
it's a
one?
conscious
I
act.
appreciate that.
Of course.
She's cool.
It's a conscious act. This is not a facade.
Whose did you watch, and what was their answer? Do you remember?
I watched. I met her through the event that we had done together in the Sound Bath and Healing and Hike. Sophia.
Oh, Sophia. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
Home
saw
Camp. She had a
hers.
good one.
Yeah.
She had a great story.
When you first asked me to come on, I think it was. I don't remember her name though, but it was a female as well. Back like before last winter, like or during last winter, I think. And I was like, yeah, I think I just looked it up and I saw one. I don't remember her name, but she could have been from LA.
Jordan.
I don't even know if it'll come back
It
to me. It
sounds
was
like
months ago, and it was really late. I ended up not watching the whole thing.
Okay.
But more recently, I did watch the one with Sophia, I believe.
Nice.
So I knew this embarrassing question. And I was like, you know what? As someone who's, I'm not going to lie, I would love to say I'm not easily embarrassed, but I can be very easily embarrassed.
I've been thinking about that question, and I feel like there's two ways you can answer.
All right, thank
There's
you,
a
because I need some.
funny, embarrassing, right?
Okay.
Which is typically the route people go, and then there's like a legit embarrassing. Sometimes
Right, like
embarrassing
you're going
is
to
not.
embarrass yourself to tell it.
Well, no, not. There's embarrassing moments that might not be funny, right? Where you can
Right.
understand somebody feels embarrassed by this event that's taking place.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. Most people say the thing that'll get a laugh.
But she has a point,
Right.
though. Like, you're going to be embarrassed by retelling that
Right, like that's when that
story.
person gets all red and they're
Yeah.
embarrassed, like retelling, reliving.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, thankfully I haven't had two. I do have one in my bed.
Oh, let's hear that.
I
Let's
set myself
go.
up for that
You did,
one.
you
You're going to be
did.
a faster thinker, Angela.
I catch you like,
You're like, wait.
thinking about something. Wait.
It's
What was
like
that you
I'm
just skipped
playing the
over?
game.
Exactly. Let's
Damn
hear
it.
it. Let's hear
All
it.
right, fine. So I'm practicing non-embarrassment.
Exactly.
All right, I'll tell it. Which I don't even know why I'm not embarrassed because I'm actually the only one who caught this. But inside, it hurt deeply. It's like, why are you like this? So,
Why you like this? It's like self-talk.
yes.
Why you like
that
this?
was the inner thoughts.
That's
So
amazing.
I was 21. Too old to be like this. So I was 21, maybe 22. The self-judgment I practice, right?
Yeah.
Or their lack of. So I worked at a place called Scotch and Soda.
I know Scotch and soda.
I'm
Actually,
sure you do.
I was
If you
about
do
to
Soho,
wear.
you do.
I was about
Scotch
to
and
wear
soda
Scotch
hoodie.
and soda, like flannel, whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
Yes, yes. I can probably name it. Anyway,
It had a big orange pocket.
it sounds like Scotch and Soda, like
Yeah.
a worker's shirt.
Yeah.
So I was working on the one in Soho on the corner, and I don't know if you've ever been in that one. The entire store is just like glass windows, so you can see the entire corner of Broadway, Lafayette, and Prince. And I remember, so a lot of the times we would just like people watch, of course, and everyone's tired walking around Soho, so you see, and we like end up seeing someone who I think worked either at a restaurant nearby or something, was shopping, I don't know, but they ended up making contact with my coworker friends who were outside. This was like a big family who worked there, or we acted like, at least. Anywho's, they make eye contact with someone from out of the window with me, who basically this guy wanted to approach me from outside of the store to come inside of the window. You're making me tell this story. And I get so embarrassed because I really didn't want him to come in, right? I don't know. It was just like a, like,
Were you
cute
not
from over
interested? Oh,
there.
okay,
I don't
gotcha.
know. Like, I just didn't ask for all of that yet. Like, it
Right.
was just an observatory moment.
Right.
Like, I wasn't ready for this.
Right.
Anyways, he's like about to come inside the street, like come across the street and come inside the store, which I don't even know how you see from this distance. I get so embarrassed. I run down the stairs of this very small store because I don't want to see him, but it's in the back stock. So I run downstairs to the back stock and I trip down the stairs.
Oof. He saw
And
it?
I bust my shin so bad.
Nobody
No, he didn't
saw
see
it.
it. No one saw it.
No
My
one-
back stock guy did, which I didn't care about that. I was like, my shin's all fucked up, like that one really hurt, the shin.
Yeah, the shin
and
stings.
it's just like, why did I run?
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of like, I don't know if I waited down there for like that to pass, or if I came back up and acted like nothing happened. But the combination of either of those, it didn't sit well, and I remember it to this day, apparently.
Yeah.
So obviously it stayed.
Yeah, the fact that now I understand what you mean by why you got to be like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a funny story.
But yeah, I've tripped a couple of places. Those are always good ones.
All right. So last segment of this is a series of 5 rapid fire questions, which you'd already know since you watched this already. I appreciate the research.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. What's your favorite city other than New York City?
Ooh, that's difficult.
Oh, you weren't ready.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. I'll just say, is that even a city? I don't even know if I can say it. I don't know. I honestly like New York City a lot. I would say Miami, but I don't know if I can do that.
Well, if it's us, obviously I said other than New York
Sure,
City.
I'll give it to Miami.
Miami's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of yeah. Okay, I see you.
It's too much fun.
Yes, it is. Enough said.
I do know what you're saying.
I know what you're saying too. If you could do any other profession, what would you do?
Dance.
Background or what?
I would still do background. Dancing for awesome. Like, yeah.
If you could choose an artist, this is not the
that's
5
a good
series.
one.
Well, who would you choose to be a background dancer for?
That's a great question. Maybe Usher or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe Usher. I like his dancers.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris Brown, Beyonce, someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dancers of the dancers.
Yeah.
In my era.
Okay. Your era. Okay. Anyway.
It's true. I mean, some people would beg to differ.
Yeah. What's your vice?
My vice. My vice. I don't know if I got to these parts of My vice. I know this should be rapid fire. My vice, sweets, ice cream.
Okay, that's a
ice
vice.
cream is a vice.
What's your favorite flavor?
I like vanilla with chocolate chip.
Okay, that's a classic.
Not to be confused with cookie dough, like the chocolate pieces.
Right.
Yeah, that one.
Right. What about cookies and cream?
I don't care for it. I know that's a big one.
Vanilla with chocolate chip?
Yeah.
It's classic.
Thank you for saying that.
My
I agree. People are like, what? You don't like cookies and cream? And
cookies and cream is good.
Or vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. That's a big one.
Like Mr.
The
Softy?
original. Not Mr. Softy. We can't mess with Mr. Softy anymore. But anywhere else, yeah.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I can't deal with the New York City ice cream truck anymore.
Like the fake artificial
Yeah,
stuff?
they don't taste the same. And
As they used to, or?
As they used to, and the ice cream trucks aren't as hygienic as they used to be, or at least to my awareness.
I don't think they were ever hygienic.
Yeah, they certainly weren't.
They've never had a
ignorance
restroom.
Was bliss when you're running for the ice cream truck sound.
Nobody just cared when you were young.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just give me $1.
Yeah, it was $1. Then it was $1.25. You found the extra quarter for the sprinkles.
You're right.
Just dip it in there. Don't charge me.
Right.
Anyway, what's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear, losing my mom, losing my parents. My mom, yeah.
Your parents?
I don't have my dad anymore.
Okay.
So I lived through that fear, which I find there's magic on the other side of death, but losing my mom is definitely a great fear of mine.
Which is
especially as I get older, it starts to ruminate a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You mentioned there's a magic on the other side of that. What do you mean?
I mean, I think the loss of my parent and the way in which it happened as well was huge. It was pivotal in terms of why I do what I do now as a career. And the magic that has stimulated a lot of my work, a lot of my, what I would like to think of higher awareness for the world that we live in. Yeah, basic terms put.
Okay. Yeah, as you get older, and seeing your parents, the mortality in their eyes and getting older.
I don't know if you see it in their eyes, but in their skin.
Their skin, their life, just their behaviors, even like their interactions. Like, when I'm talking to my parents now, a lot of the time they've gotten to that age where they're talking at me and just telling me about everything that's happening in their lives. The same thing my mom used to complain about my grandmother doing, and that my mom's doing it now. My dad's doing it. So, yeah, it is a fear. It's like almost like an inevitable outcome.
Yeah. I mean, if we're set up that right, the way it's supposed to go, that's
exactly.
the hope.
If
ironically
you're
enough,
somewhat fortunate enough to have it happen that way,
right.
in a way. Not to say that that's a fortunate event in your life, but yeah, that's kind of like a heavy note we just left off on.
Sorry, I would say like jumping off of something, but I've jumped off of a plane, so I don't know what goes higher than that. Yeah, I did that for my 21st birthday, a gift I didn't ask for, but I don't say no to challenges.
Okay.
I'm terrified of heights. I should have just gone with I'm terrified of heights, but I do them, so I don't really consider it a fear.
Wait, are you terrified of heights, or are you just terrified of falling?
I'm both. I can't tell anymore.
They coincide.
It's interesting. I was hiked off. I don't even think I should have been on top of this mountain in South Africa, and I realized that going up is much worse than going down for me. So
really?
It's the ascending. My partner who I was with at the time had an issue descending, and I was like, "That's so interesting."
You were in South Africa? We were just climbing. Was it Lion?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then there's Lion's Mane, and then there's the other one.
I did Lion's Mane. And that, like, there's parts of it.
Lion's Mane, and then there's the one. I don't know if Lion's Mane was the taller.
There's Hippo Mountain, and there's Lion's Mane, but Hippo Mountain is not really scary because it's like a constant.
Okay, it's Lion's Mane.
Lion's Mane is.
With the ladder that goes up to the top. Did you do that part?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I did. And the problem is there's a line of people waiting to do this. So it's like
insane.
not just to go up, but to go down at the same time. So you're like taking turns.
Yes. You're just on the edge of a cliff. Like they would never allow that in
US. No, they wouldn't.
You shouldn't even be up there.
They do allow it, actually. What am I saying? Angel's Landing in Zion is like that. I didn't do that. But
that was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life.
But it's frustrating. Beyond the scary part is like the waiting, and then the people kind of trying to walk past you at the edge of this cliff. But once you get to the top, when you get to that ladder, you're above the clouds. You're literally standing on
you're above the clouds. But I was above the clouds at the shorter edge of it too. Like there was a moment, which is I find absolutely insane you did it. I have to because there's a moment where there's nothing but a bridge, like a step ladder connecting one part of the boulder to the other in midair. Is that the part? And I'm like, I'm absolutely not doing that. I'm like above the clouds already. There's not much more. I don't have anything to prove. I don't know if it was Lion's Mane because I think that was the taller.
Lion's Head? It's not Lion's Head.
Maybe it's Lion's Head is the name of the mountain. Excuse me.
Yeah.
There's another one. I think Lion's Head was the one. They have a huge area for you to just kind of walk about, and then you can take the thing down.
No, that's Table Mountain.
Okay, yes, Table Mountain and Lion's Head.
Yeah,
we're talking about Lion's Head.
There wasn't there was a ladder part, but I don't remember it going it's not.
When you get to the peak,
there's
a part where you can sit and you can choose to go on and risk your life, like as if you hadn't already for the last 2 hours.
I didn't make it to
but you can just walk. I'm proud of myself here. Nothing to prove there. It was a few more feet, but insane.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I think for me the fear was it was a little ladder portion when you're on that edge when there's not too much room to shift around.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Yeah. So big. Yeah.
I have
heights and falling.
I have a bit of a fear of heights as well, but with outsiders, and we've done rappelling, and sometimes the instructor who's gonna go first, and everyone stays silent. I'm like, I guess it's me.
Does it get easier?
Yeah, it gets easier.
Oof.
The hardest part is the initial, when you first go, the whole thing is scary to get to the bottom. Then now the hardest part for me is just when you lean over the edge and it's holding you. Once it's holding you, I'm like, okay, I'm good. It's the initial putting your weight into the fall.
Right,
that's
the relaxing of your nervous system.
And the scariest, forget all that. If you go climbing indoors and have the auto belay is scary as hell.
I've never heard of
auto belay. Is a machine that automatically belays you, but you pull it and it has give. It'll give until you jump off and it catches you, but it doesn't seem like it's going to stop until you jump. So you have to trust this machine is going to catch you. I remember the first time I did it, I was 40 feet in the air on top of a rock wall.
Terrifying.
And you got to jump. I'm like, I'm not jumping. You will climb down. I'm not going to be that guy who climbs down either. Okay.
Yes, that part.
All right, well, guess what?
That part. That's why I do them, because I'm not going to be the one to climb down.
Exactly.
I have no parts of this, but I won't be that.
Yeah, I jumped.
That sucker that leaves it.
Last question is, what's your favorite food and what did you bring today?
Okay.
He's gonna
I'll get
get
your food. Oh, there's a 2-bag situation too,
Two-bag
because I was
situation.
gonna bring what's actually my first and favorite food, but I was like, he's gonna be like, I don't know if you'd be pleased with that.
Why?
Because you'd be like,
It's not
"All
about
right, I
what
gotta
pleases
have
me. This is
I
your
know,
favorite
but then
food.
it's like, okay, let me bring you something like sweet. All right, my favorite fruit ever is an apple.
It was apple. Okay.
It's a Honeycrisp apple. I actually originally bought 3, but I was starving before I got here.
Very
so this
Adam
will be
Eve.
yours, Bams.
And this place is literally like making him laugh. I'm like, he ate before he got
That's
Yeah.
hilarious
Was
and
it?
horrible.
That was Duke Sports.
Oh
Should've
yeah,
just
it's
said I
Tyler.
forgot it.
Shout out to Tyler for
But
eating
you know,
what he bought
apples
for.
are amazing, right? Like you
They
can
are.
make peanut butter, you can do it with that, and then you make it into things. So my also favorite dessert, which you make out of apples, is an apple turnover.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah, and this is from
Nice.
an awesome bakery uptown.
Shout them out. What's the bakery?
Shout them out. I think they're called Budapest.
You want
But they're
to
on
take
Second
one out
Avenue.
and show the audience what you have here?
Audience, what I've done.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm still in the mic.
I miss eating these things. I'm like gluten free now, and I can't eat this stuff.
You're not gonna.
I can't.
Oh, you're actually gluten free. Well, Bams.
Wow, that looks
Where's the
amazing
camera,
too.
Joe?
Look at that.
I got a serious one. I didn't get you,
Let's see,
you know,
let's-
like a
let's
Whole
take look.
Foods.
Look at this. Look how butter. I'm
He's
using
gonna
my
have
jazz
to enjoy
voice.
that.
How buttery and crusty this is.
Do you want to break it open and for the mic?
You break. I'm not gonna eat it. You're gonna eat it. You break it open.
I refuse that part of the segment. However, I'm glad I brought the apple then, because then you can eat the
Exactly,
apple.
I can.
You know,
I'll
I
eat the
should have gone
apple.
with the initial.
But it's
but
funny.
I'm
Recently,
glad.
I have Invisalign, and it
You
shifts
can't
your
have
teeth.
the
No, I
apple.
can. It shifts your teeth a little bit. So sometimes your teeth are a little loose. And I ate an apple, and I bit into
Wow.
it, and I thought my tooth fell out. It didn't fall out. I thought it did. So now
It
I'm like,
very well could, don't know.
it could have. Yeah, it's loose. So now I'm like cutting my apples until this Invisalign's done. Yeah.
Okay.
Fun stuff, guys.
It's a huge apple, so
It
you can cut
is.
it into a few.
All right. What we need to make sure we do is I would love to get you on Outsiders again. Obviously, collaboration where we work with you as well. But beyond that, also just like come hang, come
Would
get
love
out, come
it.
outside with us, please.
I love it.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
For having me.
And everyone, check out Equality Yoga. What's your
Equality
handle?
Yoga. Equality Yoga on Instagram.
Do you have a website?
EqualityYoga.com.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find me, you'll find my practice, and I'll see you there.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
See you later.
Thank you.